It's just total hypocrisy.
Hello, slaves? Destroyers of habitat? How many of you guys have died this month? They strip the native brush bare and leave all the invasive fire fuel around the base.
All right, this morning we're going to do a short bit on the absurdity of the supposed fear of fire fuel, starting with this right over here.
See, as long as it's for human entertainment, human recreation, we can build the perfect storm of
Just begging a fire to erupt.
But if it's naturally occurring fire fuel out in nature, that's not acceptable.
That's clearly a place that kids are playing. They built their little fort or whatever you want to call it, so that makes me a grouch for pointing it out. And of course, I did things like that when I was a kid. But when I was a kid, the whole world wasn't trying to sanitize nature, wasn't going out and picking up every fallen branch and blowing every leaf and allowing livestock to level the entire open space area. So I have to call out this hypocrisy, these double standards. We pretend like fire is about to consume us all, and we simultaneously allow people to build bonfires.
Look at all of this absurdity. The worst, driest, tallest of the fire fuel was left behind, and much of the rest of the fire fuel was simply trampled. And we're gonna go somewhere else, so I'm not gonna walk all the way over here, but you see in the background, it's more of the same. What the goats did eat, I'm sure, were the nice green, tender new shoots and all of the coyote brush. I filmed this yesterday, but I'll do it again since we're talking about the absurdity of the fire fuel argument. This coyote brush that was once green and healthy has been stripped bare while leaving behind the annual invasive European agricultural weeds, which would, in theory, be the perfect kindling to help get a fire going that would be good enough to now burn this plant that is rendered unhealthy thanks to none other than this atrocity that you see in the background. Look at that. Look how many there are. I mean, I don't think there's a herd of native animals left in California that's that big. All this brush too. People talk about, oh, the brush is a problem. Well, how did denuding brush solve whatever problem you perceived there to be? The wood that you're so scared of is there, but now it's all been denuded. It's no longer green. It's no longer able to take care of itself. It's no longer able to feed animals. And these things here, this plague, just slowly moves from one spot to the next, pretty much year round. The only thing green left on here. Thanks for the benefit, goats. Said no natural habitat ever. Coming up on another human-made bonfire. There's another aspect of this, and that's the ecological one. that wild critters depend on this stuff to actually be spread out where it falls, not piled up like this. But, you know, in terms of our hyped up fear of fire, well, building this is just ridiculous. Especially, look at it in terms of the hanging branch. This is like asking this human-made structure to set the tree on fire. I mean, if I wanted to get really anal, I could call this swing a fire hazard. I mean, that's how anal we are when it comes to nature, things like leaves. But this might be the most absurd thing. All that brown that you see over there, that's all fire fuel. That's all wood. Those are branches. Those are 2x4s. Those are posts. And it's bad enough that somehow these rich people up here that got to develop in a place that was previously protected just think it's okay to throw their shit over the side of the hill. But, you know, to stay on the topic of today, we release goats across here, wiping everything out because we're afraid of vegetation management and fire fuel, and leave all of that there. Let's go take a closer look. You can see that bad behavior leads to more bad behavior, because this pile here is new. This pile here is new, so everyone sees that they can get away with it. And now they see a park as a dumping ground. Like, the disrespect is one thing. Fire fuel, though, jeez. That is one ugly, ugly, ugly sight of humans and what they've done. Just all the way around. I'll just quickly show you, we're about to pass a whole nother section of denuded native plants that were fed to livestock. Jeez, man, look what the goats do in order to try and reach the top branches. This is an indication of how the goats prioritize eating the native plants over eating what they were brought here to eat. That they do this shit. They get on their hind legs, they even climb on top of each other, they pull the branches down to where they can reach it until they actually snap the limbs or bend, in some cases, the entire plant over with their body weight. This is what the goat grazing program does to native plants. Jeez Louise, man. Did they leave any limbs intact? Alright, let's go look at this absurd fire fuel. This just gets more offensive every year as we walk past destroyed coyote brush that was managed because of our fear of fire fuel. There's another one over there. There's an entire section over there. Now we walk up to what apparently is a dump site in a park that the city doesn't care about. I mean, this is such an eyesore that it's a little bit mind-blowing. I've been documenting this for 4+ years. Yeah, we're pretty much into the 5th year at this point. See, goat shit on the ground. They came all the way up to this edge, denuding all these plants here. See that dump truck right there? Well, these people have opened this up so that they can actually come right out here and dump whatever they don't want. Wow, this is new. Wow, they have fully embraced using this as a dump site to the point to where they've flattened this out. Amazing. This is not their property. Whether it's their property or not. You know, you want to talk about a perfect storm waiting to happen. In the meantime, in their precious concrete yard over there, they won't let a single leaf touch the ground. But out here, we'll build a bonfire waiting to happen. As long as it's not our problem anymore, right? Look at this. Just amazing. Got some plastic trash thrown in there for good measure. Got some boards. You got logs. You got twigs. You got branches. You got entire plants. You've got trees. You got palm ferns. Posts. Wow. I don't even know if I can get through this, or I have to go back around in order to document it. Look at that. The goats were even here. You want to talk about free range. You know, these people, I'm sure, have their modern day slaves. They're exploited migrant workers working around the clock to make sure that there's no leaves on their concrete and that they're non-native plants that they've brought in because they've decided that that's what they want their yard to look like. I'm sure they spend a lot of resources making that unnatural environment look just the way they want it to. Right next door, this is what they do to nature. This is the amount of respect people have. There's a pretty good chance that that concept I just expressed went right over people's heads. So let me take a moment to try and explain it. People, when it's convenient, pretend like they care about nature and respect nature, and that when they want to get behind something like a grazing program, will claim that they stand behind how it is beneficial to the habitat and things like that. And yet they will do this. It's just total hypocrisy, and it's not real, and it's not true. And it just speaks to our disconnect from nature, our lack of appreciation for nature, when we will dump endless resources into our fake habitats, our little yards that are hidden from view behind walls because we are so scared of our own species that everything has to be walled in. Endless resources into that. Almost no resources into helping nature. I mean, not just not helping nature, but actively damaging nature. Why? Convenience, saving a buck, just a lack of even considering what you're doing. But in addition to this, what I would call a crime being committed against nature, how is the city allowing this? How is turning a park into a dump site allowed? You know, even if they got out the zone and it showed that this was actually technically private property, with all the laws created and all the programs to reduce fire fuel, there's no way this would be legal, right? I mean, it's not walled off. This is going right into the park. So if we're that afraid of fire,
whether this was private property or not, there would have to be some sort of regulations against something like this. Right, just you name it, it's here. If it can burn, they threw it over the edge, mixed in with some concrete and plastic as well. That's nice. Pretty classy people living up here on Mount Douche. This is who we respect because they make money. The most important measurement of a human's value in today's society, whether or not you make a lot of money. Is anyone else baffled by how long this is going? What on earth? Man, you know I'm out of shape when my arm's getting tired from holding a phone. Look at the support posts. So they've tossed native vegetation. I mean, I can't even tell what species these are, but they tossed whatever they didn't want and replaced it with what someone told them they should plant. People this disconnected didn't do any plant research and make a decision on their own about what to plant. In fact, I see over on the other side that they've got a vineyard going. That's nice. Everybody, it's trending. Everybody's got a vineyard going now. That's great. In a drought state, another one of the biggest water consumers besides livestock, alfalfa, and the livestock themselves. A close third is wineries. Let's keep expanding that industry, shall we? I can't believe this is still going. How many people have stopped watching just because this is taking too long to document how ridiculous this is? This is obviously sawed off and just the entire thing thrown over the edge. What have we got here? What kind of clippings have we got here? If anyone had any doubt that there was kindling, got your ultimate kindling right there. This is tolerated, but simultaneously we're so afraid of fire fuel that all this natural habitat is subjected to goats eating it. It just doesn't make sense. You can't have this existing at the same time and expect me to take it seriously. I hate to tell you, but we got a ways to go still. Another hideous military compound here that they built on the hill. They've got lights so bright that this looks like a Vegas resort instead of a peaceful little spot up in the hills at night. It's really, really upsetting to me. I hate jogging through here. I get blinded. And I hate thinking about the effect it has on the wildlife out here.
I mean, if you hate nature so much, don't freaking move out here. But of course, being at the top, being on the hill, that's how we establish our status, right? That motorhome alone is worth more than a lot of people's houses. Here's a great example of meticulous care being given to what they've decided to care about and not giving a shit a few feet further away. And believe it or not, even this concrete I think is private property, because there's a gate up there, there's a gate down there. Wow. One pollinating plant managing to survive in this chaos. How long until someone advises these people that they need to chop all this down because it's a fire hazard, and instead dump it off the side of the hill in the form of dead dry wood? I'm serious. That's how stupid people are. I'm showing you proof. Look at this. Look at that hideous, hideous, hideous human home. And as I walk away from this military compound on Mount Douchebag, you see all the annuals that have reached a pretty good height despite a relatively small root still standing. You got the grasses simply bent over. You got trash rolling down the hill from these douchebags. And you've got obvious goat grazing paths etched into the side, proving that they did in fact come through here and denude these plants. You know, there are female coyote brush plants that do blossom. Well, that was cut short. Plants, native plants prevented from starting their reproduction cycle. And look at the fire fuel left at the bottom. Destroy the coyote brush and leave the kindling at the bottom. See that? Let's pan over because it continues to be the theme all the way around. Fire fuel, denuded native. If I pan up high enough and the goats didn't break the branch down to eat the top, then you have a tiny bit of foliage left. Walk through here and see that really the only thing the goats have done is wreck the place. As if everything I've said already isn't bad enough. It's 9 a.m. on February 12th, and I'm down to shorts and a t-shirt. This is Pinole. This is not supposed to be hot. Certainly not on February 12th at 9 a.m. So you add the heat, you add the goats making this actually more susceptible to fire, you add people taking all the water for their yards, for their vineyards, for their livestock. I don't understand how people can think that the problem won't get worse. And with that, we'll show one more example of the annual invasive fire fuel being left right in the midst of another denuded plant. One more angle. One more angle pointing back up at Mount Douche. Look at the extent of it. And look what's in the foreground. Destroyed coyote brush and the fire fuel the goats were brought here for. Still right at the base. Oh my God, look what the people on Mount Douchebag have done to this side. I guess I've never looked over here. Look at all that. Like I said, these people, with their devotion to concrete, these people put in sod. Microplastic is better than living plants, according to the people on Mount Douche. Look at them. Is this gonna be an official landfill? They've even got it sectioned off, just dumping shit. The other interesting thing to point out is look how ugly this is right here. But this is what the goal is of human beings now. This is what we think is good. For those of you who want to get your bearings, I was up on the other side on that hill. And here's that vineyard I was telling you that they have. The debris continues all the way over to there. And look what we have here. Native brush, denuded. There they are. There's those damned goats. I'll have to come back here and compare this after like 6 days or so. Real beautiful improvements we humans have made to the land. They even put their fire fuel on the outside of this fence. I wonder if these people have the impression that because of this abandoned barbed wire that indicates where their property line is, which is not the case. This is just neglect by the ranchers and the city to get rid of livestock wire. But you see what's been done here is they have gotten rid of the native trees, the native plants that actually would have helped the animals here and that were naturally drought resistant, and have put in all of these non-natives that require an irrigation system. More fire fuel dumped outside the property line. And the worst of the worst is the vineyard. Hey, you got money to blow? Yeah, start a vineyard. Fuck it. I keep expecting this absurdity to end at some point, but it doesn't. Apparently the fear of fire stops right at the fence, and respect for public property stops right at the fence. It just goes their entire property line and then wraps around the other way. There's their little vineyard, still going. Still using up the water that California doesn't even have left to give to them. Some coils of wire mixed in with all this fire fuel. What a nice variety. Yeah, just, I mean, dump it wherever it's convenient. That's what ranchers do. Wow, I didn't even see this dump of fire fuel before. Look at the private property sign. Private property. Please do all your dumping over here in the park. Multiple generations of fire fuel left behind by the goats in the ultimate fire created by humans.